Nigeria has stood as a beacon of resilience and determination, waxing stronger and united for 26 years of unbroken democracy. From the Fourth Republic in 1999, the nation has navigated the complexities of democracy, forging a path by growth, challenges and triumphs, reflecting on the journey so far, exploring the milestone achieved, the hurdles overcome, and lessons learned. Successive government have over the years governed and provided infrastructural developments in different sectors of the economy, social growth and security, amongst other sectoral developments. What are the future prospects of Nigeria's democracy and recommendations for improvement on the 26 years of unbroken democracy? These and more are some of the issues we shall be looking at on the program Nigeria Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Victoria Clinton. With me in the studio to look at Nigeria's 26 years of uninterrupted democracy is Dr. Aminu Hayatu. He's a political scientist from Bayero University, Kano. It's a pleasure to have you on Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, looking at the 26 years of unbroken democracy, one will start by asking, how far so far?
That is really a big question, if you may. But I think there is always an opportunity to look at things from different angles, using different perspectives to be able to say one or two things about democracy, especially in evolving democracies like ours in Africa and in Nigeria in particular. So I think it is important, 26 years, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. And you know, it is not easy to compress everything in one word. But I can say that starting from where we came in the past 26 years till date, there is no doubt everyone will agree that we have reasonably progressed and have moved forward away from where we started, despite the challenges that we've experienced and the hitches and the hookups that we have experienced along the line. But even that is also an indicator of progress, because you have to have a thesis and an antithesis to clash before you can get anything progressive, as many scholars will argue. So I think that democracy started on a good note. And if you can remember, in 1999, when the new wave ushered in, every Nigerian was happy. People were really jubilating that, celebrating against the long period of military interregnum that we experienced. And you know, one very, very particular feature of military regime is this abuse of human rights. And so people have very deep concerns about their human rights. And of course, as we know, human rights are connected to all other factors of living of human beings. It affects the economic life of individuals. It affects the health of individuals. It affects the socio-cultural activities on individuals and rights, as it may be. So I think that apart from human rights, another milestone that has been achieved is that people now have their direct representatives that speak on their behalf, as against military regimes where imposition of rule and you know, administration without consultation, governance without participation, and all of that has become a thing of the past.
Okay, Doctor, I will have to, stop you here so that we can bring in our other guests. I'll get back to you on some of the issues you've raised there. Now, we are being joined by Professor Tanko Yahaya Baba. He's a professor of political institutions and comparative politics, Department of Political Science, Usmanu Danfodio University, Sokoto. It's a pleasure to have you on the program, Prof.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good evening all.
Yes, Prof. We are talking about 26 years of unbroken democracy. Looking at how far we have gone in Nigeria democratically, what are some of the achievements you will say that we have made in the past 26 years?
Yeah, I think we have achieved quite a lot symbolically. I can say that we have broken the jinx of transitional elections. We are able to maintain democratic framework of governance, for close to 3 decades. And that itself is an achievement. And that achievement is that the civil rule has come to stay. The democracy in Nigeria is being sustained, and its sustainability is becoming obvious. And that alone, we celebrate the fact that democracy as a form of governance in Nigeria, is not being contemplated by either the people, the military as an institution. The international community have the confidence that Nigeria, which is the biggest black nation on the surface of the earth, has actually taken the cue to not only install democracy, but to maintain and sustain democracy in the country. But aside from that, I think we haven't learned a lot. The substance of democracy has not been with us. The institutions of democracy, the institutions that ought to nurture democracy in the country, are still fragile, are still weak. This institution has not contributed in any way in ingraining democracy as a framework of governance. If we are to go by stock taking, to mention one after another, institution after institution, from the legislature to judiciary, to the civil society organization, to the media as an institution, to electoral body, the electoral institution, and indeed to the executive branch of government, which combine to ensure greater participation of the public in the management of their own affairs, accountability, transparency, prudence in the management of societal resources, holding the governors accountable.
Thank you, Prof. We'll come to that, some of the issues you've raised. Now, Doc, you would agree with me that if democracy were to be a young man, we should be preparing to get married at 26. It's not too young to get married.
Yes,
you understand?
Yeah, definitely.
I know as much as we'll say, okay, like Prof tried to point out there, we might not be there yet, but at least we have made some progress. Now, in terms of economic growth, socially, and otherwise, what are some of these achievements you can point out?
No, you are basically talking about dividends of democracy, and I think that without mincing words, anyone who is living in Nigeria or who visits Nigeria knows that we've made a lot of progress in terms of the dividends of democracy. Although, we need to understand the difference between the procedure itself, in terms of delivering democracy, in terms of the institutions that Prof is talking about, and even, in terms of the framework that we're operating. But it's through democracy that we come to have, through representation, for example, projects, communities and societies and states attract projects from the federal government and state governments and local governments. Initially, before that time, it is just by the wish of whoever is in place, either the military governor or the military president decides where to take projects to, and nobody asks any question about that. If you dare do, you may face the wrath for that. So, but through this democracy, we are able to really systematically categorize the country into different parts and units, and based on a sharing formula, and of course, even based on the wishes and caprices of the people.
Yes, and now people can talk.
And people
can say, this is
yes,
what is going on, and this is what we don't like.
Exactly. Yes, because in democracy, one of the most important features is for people to have their voices in the administration of affairs that concerns them. And I think that even if by having their voices, a total response is not provided, but at different times and intervals, we've seen governments respond to people's demands, wishes, and aspirations. You remember that through the machinery of democracy, using the government as a tool, we have a process where people impute their interests, demands, and aspirations through, it's a sort of kind of machine where you do the input and government processes that, and then the output comes in terms of policies and programs and decisions, which you have all seen. Of course, it is not without mistakes, deliberately and otherwise, but people would never have wished that the military regime is not gone. So it's very important we look at these factors. And another thing is that if you look at our relations as Nigeria internationally, we have returned, their ability to run a democratic regime in our country has provided us with the opportunity to link up with the outside world and to relate diplomatically, without any qualm. Because prior to that time, a lot of countries and international actors are not at home with Nigeria because it is running, a military regime which does not align with the democratic interests of nations. So this alignment that democracy has brought with international actors has really helped Nigeria to position itself in the Committee of Nations internationally and to really take advantage of what is there to benefit from in terms of exchange of resources, in terms of import and export, in terms of even participating in decisions in world affairs, and in terms of even taking advantage of the diasporic relations to
Okay, thank you very much, Doc, for that. Now, back to you, Prof. I know you were trying to, reel out some of the challenges we are facing in today's in Nigeria's democracy today. However, there are some, we've learned a lot of lessons over the years. Now, what are some of like Doc here mentioned, some of the international, will I say, affiliations we've had over the years. Now, what are some of those things from the international community that you think we can learn to better our lot and, change the narrative?
Well, I think we still have a very long way to go as a country, as a nation, and as a democracy. Because we integrated into the Committee of Nations because of our transition to democracy and unrelented resolve to continue on that path of democracy does not is simply unrespect for the country. Remember, this country has been on the other side of the global news. Leadership crisis, corruption, misappropriation and embezzlement of government funds. We have causes to have a number of assets and resources that are actually laundered outside of this country.
Seem to have a little bit of a network issue there. However, we'll take a short break now. The conversation will continue after the break. Don't go away.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today. We're looking at 26 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria. And of course, I have two gentlemen with me, one in the studio and one via Zoom. Now, Prof, I'll still allow you to, finish your thought there.
There's a world of difference between democracy in form and democracy in substance. We have had democracy in form in this country, and that has actually earned us some sort of respect. The country is now integrated into the Committee of Nations, and of course, the voices of the country is heard. But of course, we know that we are currently struggling and grappling with challenges of governance, with challenges of leadership, with challenges relating to corruption, with challenges of economic mismanagement, and of course, with challenges of crime, of insecurity, and which has earned the country, a very negative image in the Committee of Nations. So what I'm trying to say is that democracy is just a form of government, but it all depends on how a particular people, a collectivity of people within a particular framework are ready to transform that form of government to substantially, transform the political and socio-economic, life of the people. And I was mentioning, before now, that what makes democracy are institutions. And these institutions of governance define democracy and define the resilience of democracy, define the sustainability of democracy, and also its impact. So if you are to take a stock of what has been transpiring in this country for the last 26 years, you will say that Nigeria was better off the first 10 years of democracy than now, because institutions of government, legislature, political parties, particularly, which are the bedrock of democracy, have lacked, system institutionalization. There is no well-institutionalized opposition politics in the country. There is also this entrenched dominance of ruling parties, abuse of power, and of course, undermining other important independent institutions of government, like the legislature and judiciary. Now, when you look at the legislature and the value legislature add to the process of government, I can tell you that the whole essence of democracy is actually exercised through the institution of legislature, because the sovereignty of the people, democracy symbolizes the sovereignty of the people. And the sovereignty of the people is exercised through the powers of the legislature. And the legislature ought to be independent to hold the government accountable for its action and inaction. But what we are seeing in this country in the last 50 years.
Thank you very much, Prof. We'll come back to you because you have quite a lot to say there. You've had a lot of things that Prof raised there. Now, you talked about, the citizens and all of that, even the legislature and all of that. Now, how can Nigeria, from what Prof has, said, how can Nigeria leverage its democratic experience, to drive improvement? He talked about institutions, our institutions, that he even mentioned that he would say that democracy was better off in the last 10 years than now. So how can we leverage on our experience, the experience we've gathered over the years, to better our country, democratically, economically, socially?
Yes, I think first of all we have to clarify that these problems and hitches that we're experiencing and problems are not static. They are sort of, sometimes one step forward, two steps backward, sometimes, epileptic. Some regimes come with some very fundamental changes that are positive, and then on another side there are some negative things that happen. And then in some regimes we experience, setbacks based on what the previous regimes have put in place and so on. So we must recognize the fact that it's not, a steady progress or lack of it, but, dwindling. And then it is important to say that despite those challenges, a lot of things, have been put in place to make us understand, comparatively looking at other countries. We see how democracy is being practiced based on the wishes and caprices of the people, because the fundamental pillar of democracy, the central pillar, is about everything revolves around the people. It is about the people's interests. When we see, for example, country people protesting over something, it means they are displeased with it. So what the government can learn from that is to listen to those protesters, or to listen to people through different platforms that they, inject their complaints to the system, to understand what do they want and how government can improve on those issues. Even if they are not satisfied 100%, at least some improvements are made. Democracy can continue to prosper on that basis. And I think the other thing that we can learn from, in democracy is that, democracy is also about, delivery of good governance. And what we have seen, for example, in the years in the past, is that even let's take precisely, for example, state governors. State governors are supposed to deliver dividends of democracy to the people. They are supposed to represent them. State legislatures are supposed to, act, as representatives of the people, working together with the executive and the judiciary to deliver democracy. But many states, we have seen how their interest is on how they can be able to acquire the political power, use that machinery, use that as a tool to advance their own personal interest as against the interests of the people. So because of that selfish aggrandizement that leaders, are immersed with, people have seen, quite insufficient and insignificant levels of progress in different states with varying degrees.
Okay, so, that I just want you to also continue in your line of thought, but also, what are the roles of the people in ensuring that the people at the helm of affairs deliver good governance? Because you just said democracy is about delivery of good governance. So,
well, the people's role is very simple, is to demand accountability from their leaders. Because the reason why the leaders are there is because the people are too many to take a seat in the domains of power. Otherwise, there would have been no need for representation. So that is why people are clustered in democracy, to pull out a representative who is going there to take decisions on their behalf. So people must continuously demand accountability in governance. Whether it is a governor, whether it is a president, whether it is a representative or a senator or whoever, or a councillor or a local government chairman, people must come out to speak. Of course, there are different ways that people can channel their grievances without wreaking havoc, on the political system. And this entails, for example, making submissions, through their representatives in the legislature, because the representatives have their constituency offices where they can meet with their people. And then the governor has, his office, and he has his advisors and assistants and so on. So it's a whole lot that requires people to understand how government is run, and then channel their grievances or satisfaction.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aminu Hayatu, political scientist, Bayero University, Kano. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
And also we had via Zoom, Professor Tanko Yahaya Baba. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And thank you for being part of the program. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.